Welcome to Shadowproof. Evidence first, noise last.
Have you ever wondered, where do we come from and where are we going? According to some scholars studying aliens, if you have ever thought about this issue, it is very likely that your soul does not come from Earth, the gift from the stars. The book tells that long ago, aliens used the method of soul transmigration to reincarnate on Earth, to help humans gradually realize that in the universe, Earth is not the only place with life. The author of the book, Elena, is an alien who came to Earth in this way. For over 40 years, she has maintained contact with other aliens on Earth. But she never wanted to reveal her true identity. It wasn't until 2019, in a dream, that she received an important message from an alien. This message was not actually intended specifically for Elena. In fact, it is a gift for all humanity. And this is also the origin of the book's name, because this book is a gift from the stars. Everything started from that dream. Now, let's turn back time more than 20 years. That year, Elena received the gift for humanity. One night in 2019, as usual, at exactly 10 p.m., Elena fell asleep. Since remembering her true identity, in her dreams, she often drives a light ship out of her body to perform tasks. The light ship is the soul that humans on Earth often refer to. According to Elena, each of us can actually drive our light ship out of our bodies when sleeping. At that moment, Elena received information about her identity. At this point, we might think we are dreaming, but everything is real. However, that day, after Elena's light ship left her body, something strange happened. She was suddenly sucked into a multi-dimensional tunnel and rushed forward at an extremely high speed. In less than a few seconds, she arrived at a completely unfamiliar world. Elena said this world is very different from Earth. The sky is red. In the distance, there are sharp mountains like iron teeth. At this moment, Elena suddenly realized she had left Earth. Moreover, she was in a very high place because she could look directly at the mountain peaks. So, she looked down and discovered she was standing on top of a pyramid. According to Elena, this pyramid is made of a semi-transparent crystal. From the outside, she could look directly inside the pyramid. At the center of the pyramid, there is a huge crystal column resembling a Washington monument. The lower half of the column is surrounded by two sets of yellow wires. At the very bottom, there are 8 smaller crystals, although Elena already knew she was an alien at that time, because all souls from the stars have their memories erased upon reincarnation. When she saw the scene before her eyes, she was still very shocked. At that moment, Karen, Elena's alien friend, also appeared. He, like Elena, is an alien of the Satoru race. The difference is that Karen has evolved to a very high level, so he no longer has a physical eye. Each time, he appears in the form of a light ship. Karen told Elena that the pyramid before them is actually a giant battery. The crystal column at the center will absorb a type of energy called frill from the universe. The smaller crystal columns around it help regulate this energy. Afterward, the pyramid will store all the energy. Importantly, according to Elena, the pyramids on Earth also have crystal columns. It's just that this has been concealed. Coincidentally, a few years ago, an archaeologist claimed to have discovered a huge space inside the pyramid. 1. At that time, the Egyptian government assured reporters that if any new discoveries were made, they would definitely inform everyone. 2. However, a new year has passed without any progress. 3. Could this be the location of the crystal that Elena mentioned? Concealment of the crystal. 5. Because the pyramid's function is not only to store energy, but it could also be a gateway through the stars. 6. In fact, for a long time, people have noticed many strange coincidences about the pyramid. 7. For example, The pyramid is oriented more precisely to the 4 cardinal directions than 8. The 8 faces of the pyramid align strangely, intersecting the most of 9. Its apex coordinates coincidentally match the 10, but in reality, these are not random coincidences. They're clues intentionally left by aliens. 11. Helena confidently asserts that one day, humans will find a key inside the pyramid. 12. The key here is probably not a real key, but a kind of formula. 13. Because Elena said that this key can activate quantum technology on the pyramid's body. 14. Once unlocked, it can restart the pyramid. 15. At that time, besides obtaining free, clean energy. 16. Humans could also use this immense energy-focused space-time gate, reaching anywhere. 17. It might even transcend. 18. Afterwards, the crystals around the pyramid will emit a blue light. 19. Simultaneously providing upward momentum. 20. Next, people will see an energy source like a waterfall gushing from the pyramid's peak. 21. Transporting humans. 22. Also, because the pyramid itself accumulates. 23. Some sensitive individuals' bodies react when they approach the pyramid. 24. Their energy will be activated by the pyramid, and their consciousness will also be awakened. 25. Strangely, we have seen in other documents that there are indeed people who claim to have been sent to the past by the pyramid. 26. Do you know, in Egypt, there is an ancient proverb that says, 27. Humans fear time, but time fears them. 28. Some scholars believe the meaning of this proverb is that the pyramid's construction technique is. 29. That even after over 4,000 years, it remains standing firm. 30. However, this is not the true meaning the proverb intends to convey. 31. In fact, the ancient Egyptians knew early on that one of the pyramid's functions includes traversing space-time. 32. In August 2000, at Egypt's Giza pyramid complex, rumors circulated. 33. A tourist named Steve mysteriously disappeared after entering the pyramid with his tour group. 34. It wasn't until over 3 hours later that Steve suddenly reappeared. 35. At that moment, everyone was very excited, asking Steve where he had been all that time. 36. However, Steve, with a puzzled expression, replied that he had. 37. He didn't even feel that he had been missing for over 3 hours. 38. Even more puzzling was that Steve later discovered his wristwatch had stopped over 3 hours earlier. 39. According to Steve's account, earlier after entering the pyramid, he suddenly felt a bit dizzy. 40. So, he unconsciously closed his eyes. 41. Unexpectedly, the originally noisy space suddenly became. 42. Even the tour group had vanished. 43. It was as if he was the only one left in the inn. 44. And then, just as he was feeling a bit tense, everything returned to normal. 45. The entire process for him lasted at most just over a minute. 46. But in reality, he had been missing for over 3 hours. 47. Not only Steve's case, in 1977, electronics engineer Joe Parr, while using pyramid measurement tools. 48. Discovered that the pyramid has a magnetic field and radiant energy. 49. Therefore, Joe immediately focused on 50. To facilitate the research, Joe even specially brought miniature pyramid models into the laboratory. And then he discovered that by placing the pyramid in a radiation environment and surrounding it with a centrifugal, a mysterious energy field appeared around the pyramid. This energy field resembled a bubble, enveloping the entire pyramid. Moreover, once the energy field appeared, it could block all energy from passing through it. At that time, Joe even placed devices emitting electromagnetic radiation and gamma rays right beneath the pyramid. But even so, once the energy field appeared, he still couldn't detect the electromagnetic radiation and gamma rays. It was as if the pyramid no longer existed in our spacetime. Even more bizarrely, during many experiments, the pyramid exhibited anti-gravity phenomena. This was quite astonishing, as these phenomena violated the known laws of physics. As explanation, he believed that when the pyramid no longer resided in our continuous spacetime but had entered hyperspace. Thus, energy from this world was blocked, and in that space, there was no gravitational field. Therefore, the pyramid drifted upward after entering hyperspace. S words, Joe. S just that Joe didn't. And this is also why the tourist's wristwatch earlier stopped. Because once the pyramid is activated, it can transport humans to another dimension where time does not exist. That's why the ancient Egyptians said, humans fear time, but time fears the pyramids. So, who in this world could create such powerful technology? Amazingly, according to Elena, the pyramid builders had long revealed their identity. According to Elena, in the Lyra constellation, 1,200 light-years from Earth, there is an ancient planet named Iorio. There, an extremely ancient race resides, called the Land People. They belong to a humanoid race in the universe, with large bodies, hat-like faces, fluffy reddish-yellow curly hair, and a very long tail. They greatly love music and art. Therefore, long ago, they discovered the secret of frequency, knowing how to use special frequencies in music to make objects levitate. And modern science has also confirmed that when a resonant frequency reaches a certain specific index, objects can indeed exhibit anti-gravity states. And over 1 million years ago, they came to Earth. It is said that the feline animals on Earth are get slapped by the Land People. And this is also why the Sphinx and Egyptians revered feline animals so much. Because the Egyptians regarded the Land People as deities. Of course, this claim was not acknowledged by scholar Zhu Liao. According to scholar Zhu Liao, the Sphinx was built by Pharaoh Khafra over 4,000 years ago. However, this claim was doubted due to the discovery of a stone seal. In 1858, Auguste Mariette, a French archaeologist, discovered an ancient stone stele in an Egyptian temple next to the Sphinx. The stele clearly recorded that Pharaoh Khufu once ordered repairs to the Sphinx. This means that over 4,600 years ago, the Sphinx already existed. And since Pharaoh Khafra succeeded Pharaoh Khufu, the Sphinx couldn't have been newly built. Not only that, some scholars even discovered that the Sphinx was once eroded by a great flood. And the last time Egypt was attacked by a flood was over 10,000 years ago. This seems to once again prove that the Sphinx is not a product of human technology. Notably, according to Elena, the true purpose of the Sphinx is not just a monument. It is actually the entrance to a massive library. And this library contains much important information, even including the secret of racial origins in the Milky Way. In today's 21st century, we still cannot determine where we humans truly originated. But according to extraterrestrial beings, one day humans will surely discover that. On Earth, we cannot find the origin of humanity. Because the birthplace of humanity is not on Earth, but in the star system CA62, 1,200 light-years from Earth. However, CA62 is just what Earthlings call it. Extraterrestrials call this humanity. Because this is precisely the birthplace of the human race within the Milky Way system. And the Land People we just mentioned indeed originate from this place. However, at that time, besides the Lands People, there were 3 other primitive human races living here. Among them, the Ahel people living on the planet Maya were the earliest born human race. Mana. Simultaneously, this is also a world brimming with tranquility and peace, because the Ahel people place extreme importance on leadership. It is said that the Ahel people have blue eyes and golden hair. They highly value education, but their education is not a rigid, formulaic set of rules. Usually, after an A-Hell child is born, they first take the child to a crystal building called Aqua. The building is constructed on an incredibly beautiful large lake, inside which reside 12 extremely wise priests. Normally, their eyes do not open, because their souls are not within their bodies, but instead travel to other regions of the universe to observe the development of those lands. Once Mana has a new infant, at least one of the 12 priests will return to Aqua. At this moment, the priests will open their eyes to gaze at the child. Usually, they cannot foresee all the events this child will experience in life. But the priest will never speak of these matters, only routinely categorize the child's innate qualities. Finally, through guidance methods to stimulate the child's potential. Next, what we see is the planet Tho. The people living here are the Nua. Their physique is extremely robust and strong. They have long red hair, green eyes, and skin that is both fair and sensitive. The reason is that planet Tho is extremely far from planet K62, making it difficult for the planet's hex as light. Therefore, the skin of the Nua people lacks black pigment. Later, when they set foot on Earth, they had to wear a type of long pants and robe made from a special material to conveniently resist solar radiation. Finally, we see the On people. They live on the planet Onankara, which is the third farthest planet, translated as the center of power of the human system. True to its name, the Thon people living on this planet hold high authority over the entire human system, precisely because among the 4 human races, they're the ones with the highest moral standards and the most rational. In the past, they always led the human race in development and guided the human race to grasp many star systems. Thus, under their leadership, the human race ushered in an unprecedented era of prosperity in history. But until after an incident occurred, the K-62 system fell into a deadly silence. Elena said that about over 5 billion years ago, the former base of the Thon people observed that the nearest Lin Shu vortex was abnormally open. The Lin Shu vortex is a crystal with energy stronger than a black hole. Through it, one can not only traverse time and space but even cross dimensions to higher or lower level worlds. Also, because the Lin Shu vortex can connect to many dimensions, when it was abnormally open, the Thon people immediately sensed that the situation seemed amiss. And reality also proved the Thon people's judgment to be completely accurate. Because after the Lin Shu vortex was opened, a massive fleet of Chakko appeared in the K-62 system. We have mentioned before that today on Earth, an extremely evil organization called the Chakko Empire has emerged. This is a destructive group created by the lizard people. However, within the Milky Way, Earth was not the first target attacked by Chakko. Elena continued, the K-62 system is precisely where they aimed. After the Chakko fleet arrived at K-62, the first place they attacked was the Thon people, a high administrator, and this war could be said to be predetermined that Chakko would win. Because before encountering Chakko, this peace-loving race did not know what war was. Therefore, even though their science and technology were also very advanced, they had never researched or manufactured any kind of weapon. Thus, after an unimaginable attack, the Thon representatives stepped forward to negotiate with the lizard people leading Chakko, proposing that if they agreed to open a safe passage for the surviving members of the human race to leave, then Chakko would unconditionally obtain the K-62 realm. So, after reaching an agreement, the survivors boarded a giant ship and fled from the ancestral homeland of the human race. However, what the Thon people could not imagine was that after they found a planet to continue living on, Chakko began to hunt down the surviving members of the human race. At this point, the Thon people finally saw through the true nature of Chakko. Simultaneously, they realized that compromising with an evil race is a foolish act. Thus, some human races began to choose a different path, joining hands in cooperation. However, some ethnic groups steadfastly not only refused to submit to the Dark Forces but also joined the Galactic Federation to research and develop weapons, ready to sacrifice themselves to protect. This is also one of the reasons Elena came to Earth, as the enemy faction has targeted this planet as an objective. Therefore, other well-intentioned aliens in the universe also flocked to Earth, expressing their desire to help. At the end of the book, Elena shares with readers that this book introduces a total of over 100 types of alien. However, this does not mean that there are only that many aliens in the universe. It's just that at this stage, there are over 100 types of aliens related to Earth. Perhaps this information is too novel and difficult for ordinary people to accept, but she does not expect everyone to believe her words. In fact, Elena only hopes that people are aware of this information.
If the proof convinced you, subscribe and open the next case.